Government has admitted the ongoing electricity crisis is costing the country dearly. Businesses have had to either get generators or seek other sources of alternative energy. It's even worse for small businesses, though, who don't have big budgets in order to introduce these alternatives. Let's talk more about the situation with BUSA CEO Cas Coovadia. Cas, welcome back to Daytime Update. Always good to have you with us. I was looking at something earlier where you were quoted as having said that at this point, the estimation around the cost of load shedding daily for the country goes as high as 4 billion rand.
Yeah, I mean, the impact is severe on a range of fronts, besides the economic impact on businesses, because there are significant parts of our manufacturing industry where equipment can't just be shut down and turned up again at whim. And so this load shedding has a significant impact on maintaining equipment, on the operation of equipment, so it has an impact on production. Obviously, the entertainment industries, restaurants and so on, feel a significant impact. Small and medium businesses feel significant impact. And then there's just impact elsewhere. I mean, so, City Power in Joburg tells you that water is being impacted on, the flow of water because of the load shedding, and that has a significant impact and cost on maintenance of those plants, and costs and impact on ordinary citizens. So the impact is severe and it's broad-based, and that is why this is an urgent situation that needs to be addressed within the context of an understanding that we also need to urgently implement the President's energy plan, which we are certainly working with the Presidency on to implement, and that we need to be pragmatic about this. Load shedding is going to be with us for the next 18 months at least, while we get other forms of energy onto the grid. But at the very least, we need to make some short-term and immediate intervention that might help to a certain extent ameliorate the current crisis.
I'll come to some of those issues in a moment. I want to stay just a bit longer with that sum of 4 billion rand and how accurate a measure it is of the economic cost of load shedding on the daily. How reliable is it?
Well, this is what a number of economists and others are saying. We obviously trying to get as much information as possible from members and from businesses. But if you just look at, we having about 8 to 10 hours of load shedding a day, and if you consider that, and if you consider how important electricity is to businesses, how important electricity is to households, the impact it has on foodstuff that sometimes might go rotten. 4 billion rand appears to be quite a realistic figure.
You said you're working with government. Of course, we know there was the plan announced by the President back in July. Among the issues that were brought up there was that there'd be an easing of the space to allow for more independent power generation in order to assist Eskom. But as we know, things such as solar, for example, aren't going to be the solution to the crisis as a whole. Based on what you know in the 2 months since that announcement, would you say that government is working fast enough on the process, especially if we're hoping to, in the next 18 months or so, be able to eliminate, to a degree, load shedding?
Look, I think you need to pose that question to government, but certainly in the work we're doing with government, all indications are that NECOM, the National Energy Committee established in the Presidency, is doing quite a lot of work. They have put into place a number of structures. They actually developed detailed plans on what's to be done. We are working with them to try to source the necessary expertise that they need. So I think a significant amount of work is being done currently, and we are satisfied that on the implementation of the plan, I think that things are moving with urgency, and implementation is being taken seriously. That's certainly our experience in working with government on the plan, and we will do everything we can to source the expertise to assist wherever possible from the private sector, because it's in the interests of business in the private sector to get that plan implemented as quickly as possible. But you also need to speak to government about that. But certainly on the implementation of the plan, which, as you mentioned, is a sort of 18 to 24 months trajectory, we are satisfied that the progress is being made and is being taken seriously and treated with urgency. The issue now is that in the midst of implementing that plan, starting the implementation, we have the current load shedding. And that's why we need some sort of urgent interventions to at least minimize the impact of this, or to see how we can minimize the frequency with which we go to higher stages of load shedding, like stages 5 and 6.
So there's been a lot of conversation this week, I'm sure you've heard some of it, about how a mismatch or a lack of the right skills at Eskom is part of the problem. In fact, put more plainly, the likes of the former statistician General Padile Hutla have said that Eskom can't be put on the right path when it's not being run at the highest levels by engineers. Would you support that thinking?
Well, I think there is a shortage of engineering skills, and we have, through a structure that business has set up called TAMDev, which is being managed by the National Business Initiative, put some skills into Eskom. But and in our statement we said that if the need for additional skills are identified, we are more than happy to talk to the Eskom executive to see if we can assist in filling those skills, at least in the short term, to address this problem and see what we do in the long term. But if those skills aren't there, then those skills need to be put in. Obviously, for an organization like Eskom, critical engineering and such skills are absolutely necessary. And they must be put in. So we have talked to that, and we believe that we need to identify that with urgency. And business has consistently publicly said that if we are approached to assist from a capacity point of view, we will do our best to actually provide that capacity. And so we would welcome that sort of conversation.
Are you familiar, and I'm just asking this on the spot now, with any of the three preferred bidders with which government signed yesterday, those power purchase agreements?
No, not familiar with it.
Just on that then, do you think outside of the power purchase agreements, further introduction of independent power producers as a whole, would getting Eskom a permanent competitor in the market, not privatizing it itself, but introducing a competitor, do you think that would be part of the solution, Cas?
No, absolutely. I think opening up the energy market, it's not, and this discussion isn't about Eskom anymore. Obviously, Eskom is a critical player, and in the context of the ongoing load shedding, Eskom is the most important player. But going forward, and the President's plan talks to this, we need to open up the market. Eskom will be a player in the market, not the player in the market. And the Eskom executive has publicly acknowledged that. So we do need to move with speed to ensure that we enable private sector generation of power as quickly as we can through as many private sector generators of power as we can. Where Eskom can facilitate this by making land available, by making other infrastructure available, they should do so. And government should ensure that any remaining blockages to that are taken away. The other thing is that government needs to speak with a single voice. And that single voice has got to be that we need a more diversified energy environment, renewables, solar, and as a transition measure towards cleaner forms of energy, gas plays a role, but that we need to stop talking about building of new coal-powered fire stations and so on. That's just not the way the globe is moving. And we need a single voice from government.
Right.
We can't have the President saying one thing and somebody else saying another.
Cas Coovadia, good to speak to you, sir. Cas Coovadia is with Business Unity South Africa.
Thank you.